AC running hot? Trouble charging the system? Not enough freon? Or too much? I'll show you all the things that can trip you up when you charge your AC. I'm Mike, the backyard mechanic, and this is the Mustang. It's cool, but it was hot, but it was not an easy road to Coolsville. It was blowing hot out one side and cold out the other, as you saw in this video. And as you recall, I replaced the blend door actuators, but that didn't fix the problem. My scanner showed a large discrepancy between blend door positions, the right one working fine from 0 to 100%, but the left one going out of range at 30%. I suspected the left door was jamming. The Mustang evaporator is a monstrosity buried in the dash. Here is one still in place with the dash apart. And here's one I found laying in the road. And to give you an idea of scale, here's a picture of me standing next to it. Disregard that chalk body line on the side. Before doing any work, I used my borescope so I could see a little what. I was able to compare the right blend door, which was getting the correct readings, to the left blend door, which wasn't. After spending a significant amount of time opening and closing blend doors, I was able to determine that it was functioning correctly. I just got this borescope. Let's put it down the garbage disposal. What? Did you think I was going to grind it up? So the actuators and blend doors have been addressed. I inspected the compressor and it was engaging properly. Other components that could cause the problem, the condenser and the expansion valve, had just been replaced at the beginning of summer. This is why it was not my first thought that the AC is low. But that's the problem. I had already tried to charge it with one of those mini charge hoses with the single gauge. I didn't like this at all. It was unnerving to see the needle going into the red without knowing exactly why. So I pulled out the big gun, a full gauge manifold. A full gauge manifold set shows the low side and high side pressure. You use the high side for reference to determine if the system is functioning properly. This was a good move because it told me that the system was otherwise in working order. I attached the can of freon to charge the system. The needle was moving drastically from 70 psi to 30 psi about every 10 seconds. The DIY videos rarely mention this situation. It was 110 degrees outside and even hotter in the garage with the car running. I had the shop fan on, but it felt like a hairdryer blowing on me. I went through a can and a half, which means I only had 3 ounces of freon when I started. But ultimately, it is working and blowing ice cold. It sounds like I have a leak. I had it serviced at the beginning of summer, and it was running low in August. I have UV dye in the system, so I can check. The condenser has a concerning spot down in the bottom, but I can't really get in there to tell for sure. The high pressure port is so clean you can't even see it in the dark. The low pressure port has some dye on it, but I'm pretty sure that's from struggling to connect the hose. The compressor is cleaner than I thought, considering I spilled UV oil all over it. I cleaned it real good. Be careful of additives. Higher levels of dye can reduce the lubrication properties of the oil. Mixing different types of dyes can also lead to problems. Never use stop leak. They can clog the critical parts like the condenser, evaporator, or expansion valve. Then a mechanic will not touch your system. One of the more common leaks is in the ports. To prevent this, when you disconnect a Schrader valve, you should flick the plunger to make sure the poppet is closed. And don't lose that cap. Your AC should be between 40 and 50 degrees. A temperature gauge is $6. This knowledge would have told me it wasn't the blend doors. The freon moves from right to left, and if it's not cold enough, it will start warming up on the left side, especially with dual climate zones. But the right side was 60 degrees. That was my clue. Keeping the gauge in your car is a good idea, especially if you have a slow leak. It's kind of hard to tell if the temperature has creeped up 5 degrees, and it's easier to keep it topped off. A fluctuating needle is primarily due to a low charge. However, just to make things fun, it can also be due to an overcharge. How do you tell which it is? With a manifold gauge set like this one. If both gauges read too high, it's overcharged. If both are too low, it's undercharged. Don't try and charge your system without a full manifold set. They used to be scary expensive, but now you can buy them for less than the price of an AC Pro. It's also nice to have proper long hoses instead of fighting with those shorty ones. Another telltale sign of low charge is very fast clutch cycling. The needle wouldn't even finish moving before it would kick on again. There are ambient temperature charts. If it's 100 degrees, the target low pressure will need to be higher than if it was 70 degrees. If it's below 60 degrees, you shouldn't charge your AC. When it gets hot outside, the gas will expand and you can find you've overcharged the system. I did this when it was over 110 degrees in the garage. This just ultimately made the job harder. Not only because I was toying with heat stroke, but because when it's hot outside, the AC system has to work harder to maintain the desired temperature inside the car, which can also cause the pressure to fluctuate. I should have done this early in the morning when the garage was not a blast furnace. If it's a big charge, take your time and maybe drive the vehicle or let the car sit and idle for a while between charges. I have to mention a few safety tips, especially when using a manifold gauge set. Wear goggles and gloves. Refrigerant is so cold it will burn you. You also don't want to breathe this stuff. With the small gauge, you can only connect to the low port. The low port is low pressure, the side before the compressor. With the gauge set, you can turn the wrong knob and fill the high pressure side. This can quickly turn the can of refrigerant into a bomb. Don't do that. The small gauge has a very short hose, and only a small amount of air will get into the system. The gauge set has this 4-foot hose with 4 times the air. There's usually a bleed valve on the gauge set so you can release any air before filling the system. Air in the system is bad. It can get in from the fill hose or from a leak before the compressor. Air is non-condensable and thus it cannot be condensed like a refrigerant. It collects in the top of the condenser and is trapped. This results in cooling inefficiencies and even the condenser explodes. The only way to get air out is to evacuate the system and vacuum it all out. Charging an AC based on pressure is not the best way to do it. The most optimal way to charge an AC is to empty the system, weigh the evacuated freon, create and hold a vacuum in the system to test for leaks, then refill using the old freon, assuming it is good, with any additional needed to bring the total weight of the contents up to spec. It's fairly easy to pressure-based charge a system if it's only a little low. To charge a system which is very low, like mine, you need to take the low reading. The high reading is a system attempting to normalize. There is so much talk online about not overcharging, which is a real thing, that it can be unnerving to see that needle moving from blue to red. But if the system is very low, this is natural, and you have to plow ahead. In March 2020, the EPA changed the regulations. As of then, it is legal to release any non-chlorine-based refrigerants into the atmosphere. Backyard mechanics rejoice in the freedom of venting your freon in your garage or anywhere you want, even in the city. There are 3 main types of refrigerant used in vehicles: R12, R134A, and R1234YF. After shooting this video, I realized it's not R1234YF, it's R1234YF. So, enjoy that. These all use different equipment, so if you have R1234YF in your car, don't buy the gauge set I recommended. R12 was used in cars from the 30s until 1994. It is dichloride effluoromethane hydrochlorofluorocarbon, or HCFC. It's discontinued because it's chlorine-based and was ripping holes in the ozone big enough to drive the Antarctica through. R134A has been in use since 1992 and is now being phased out. It is a tetrafluoroethane, a hydrofluorocarbon compound used without the ozone affecting chlorine. I'm sorry. I always get a little misty with tetrafluoroethane being my favorite hydrofluorocarbon. It does, however, affect the atmosphere by causing a warming effect 1,400 times more than carbon dioxide, which was an improvement over R12, which was 11,000. R1234YF is the latest and still not in all new vehicles. It is a tetrafluoropropene hydrofluoroolefin. It has a global warming potential of 4, so it's much easier on the environment. The tiny drawback is it is a persistent organic pollutant, meaning they are toxic, don't break down, and live forever in your body. Kind of like our friends the PFAS. Oh, Teflon. I know you're killing me, but you're so easy to clean. The other tiny drawback to R1234 is it costs more. R134 is about $10 per pound. The new refrigerant costs about 10 times as much. Why? I Googled it, and this is the common theme I see. The higher cost of R1234YF is due to a combination of factors, including its advanced environmental properties, the complexity of its production, and its relatively new market with high demand. That was expensive bourbon! There are dozens of companies that make R134A in the US, Mexico, China, and even France. Guess how many companies make R1234YF? Go ahead, guess. No, not 0. Honeywell and DuPont, also known by Chemours, as DuPont is trying to hide behind a subsidiary from years of poisoning the environment. Honeywell and Chemours hold the patents, and they are taking multiple legal actions against other companies in China and Japan that are trying to make it cheaper. So yeah, that's why it's expensive. There goes that sweet, sweet DuPont ad money. You can find a ton of resources saying charging an AC is not a DIY job, but ultimately there is a ton times 10 or 10 tons of resources that say you can. So which is it? Well, it can be DIY, but it should be considered more advanced than the instructions on a can of AC Pro would lead you to believe. It's good to have an understanding of AC systems before attempting this. Hey, I've got a fan online. Hey fan, I'm sure this video kept you interested.
Sorry man, I had to run.
Thanks, fan. I'm an Amazon affiliate now. Do me a favor and use the links in the description to buy the stuff I discussed. It helps me out. To learn more on this topic, watch AC Clicks Fix, where you can hit the bricks and get your kicks on my mix of tricks. Ooh, rhyming makes me hungry for snacks. Weird things make me hungry. My favorite hydrofluorocarbon.